Welcome to Lesson 2 of Module 4. In this lesson, we'll discuss the struggles students have with working memory and strategies in order to support them. As we had discussed in the previous lesson, working memory is the ability to retain and use information over a short period of time. There are several instances when working memory is used in a classroom, including when gathering and remembering information, understanding directions, reading, and learning math. Let's look at the first instance, gathering and remembering information. Say in a class you are reading a passage aloud to students who do not have the text in front of them. This can be extremely difficult for some students, since not only do they have to use their listening skills to hear and understand what you are saying, but they also have to retain the information, since they are often asked to recall certain parts. So how can we support our students that might struggle with this? First, if possible, provide the students with a text to follow along as you read aloud. This will allow them to annotate the document in order to help them retain the information. If for whatever reason you cannot provide them with the text, try to create a bulleted list or an overview of the text that they can always refer back to. It is also extremely useful to provide them with a graphic organizer to help them take notes while you are reading aloud. The document can be structured in order to help them organize their thoughts and ideas, as well as follow along with what you are reading. Let's pretend we are going to read the following math problem to the students. Lauren leaves her house and drives to a nearby city, traveling at 50 miles per hour. She then returns home on the same road, traveling at a speed of 60 miles per hour. In total, she drove 5 hours away and then back. What is the distance from Lauren's house to the city she visited? If we want our students to work on their listening skills and do not provide them with the word problem, we can give them a note sheet that looks something like this. The speed from home to the city, the speed from the city to home, and the time driving. If you have visual students, you can even do something like this. Now, although you are still practicing listening skills, you are supporting the students that struggle with their working memory and might have difficulty retaining the information from the word problem. And remember, you do not have to provide this to everyone in the class, only those who you think would benefit from the additional scaffolds. You can also create graphic organizers for students to gather information while reading independently in order to help them remember and structure their thought process. Another part of working memory is the ability to understand directions. Students often struggle with this since not only do they have to focus on what they are doing, but what they have to do next. Therefore, students often get lost after the first or second step. Say you ask students to read a page from a book. Write down a sentence and identify a literary element in the sentence and explain how the sentence demonstrates that element using relevant keywords. While we might think this is fairly straightforward, there are several steps and skills that go into this. The steps are: read a page from a book, write down a sentence, identify a literary element in the sentence, explain the literary element and sentence using relevant keywords. The skills that the students will need in order to complete these steps are: read a text, comprehend a text, remember a literary element, understand what the literary element means, identify a sentence that relates to that literary element, and explain how that sentence demonstrates the literary element. So while we might have stood in the front of the class and said this sentence or even put it on the board, there are several steps and skills that students must understand and complete in order to fulfill the task. The first thing we should do in order to support our students is to always have the assignment or directions in writing on the board, and if possible, break it down into steps like we had done above. And then for each step, here are a few strategies that you can use in order to support any struggling students. Read a page from a book. You can specify a page or set of pages to choose from. If you give students a range of pages to read, and you know a student might struggle, only assign them one page. Writing down a sentence. Give them a place to write their sentence, so they do not have to worry about finding paper and organizing their materials. Identify a literary element in the sentence. Provide the students with a list of literary elements and examples of each for reference. Explain the literary element and sentence using relevant keywords. Give the students a sentence starter and transition words if necessary. Not only is it helpful to have the directions posted on the board, but you can also provide individual students with directions or instructions to keep on their desk for reference. Students may struggle with their working memory when reading, since they might forget how to pronounce a word. In order to support students learning to read, use both auditory and visual cues, so they can associate the way the word looks with the sound. If possible, it is also beneficial to have a device where the students can type in the word and then hear the pronunciation. You can also support students with learning how to read or spell by having spelling rules listed out for them as a reference. Similar to having spelling rules listed out, when completing a math problem, especially one with multiple steps, it is extremely useful to have the steps written down along with the sample problem for the students. This way, they can refer back to the sample if they need assistance. When I co-taught in a math class, I used to create OneNote pages for my students with the steps, rules, and even videos that they could reference in order to complete a problem. This way, when completing their work, if they had a question or problem, they could refer to the OneNote to not only access the notes, but be brought directly to a video for further assistance. When working with several struggling students, this allowed me to rotate through each one, while still leaving the others with scaffolds and supports when I was not working directly with them. In addition to the strategies we discussed, it is also beneficial to do the following. Create a one-page review or recap for each week or unit. Review what was taught the previous day in the beginning of the lesson, and to always recap the day's lesson or objective at the end of each lesson in the exit ticket. By using these strategies, students are constantly reviewing the material and have more opportunity to be exposed to it. This will help them remember the information long term.